The U20 World Cup is beginning, and we've finally begun the first match as we see Japan vs Nigeria face off. And so in today's video I just want to talk about my predictions for this specific game. I also plan on releasing my 100 predictions for the full U20 World Cup soon, but knowing my release schedule it may take a bit longer. Right off the gate, the first thing to talk about is who will actually win this match. Now given that Japan are in the group of death, they will have to survive the group stage by taking their second place spot. Story wise, we know that France are the favourites to win the tournament and overall the strongest team, with Loki, Charles, a potential new Gen 11 and 8 other top tier players. At their current skill level, Japan are not ready to overtake them and take the first place, so realistically in this group we will see France go undefeated 3-0, meaning it's a battle for second place. For the Nigeria game, it will go in two directions, the first being Japan winning, showing they are competitive in the world and bringing hype into the next game against France, even though they'll still lose. In the case Japan win, I think the final score will be around 4-2, as they will probably be the only time in the tournament they play a non-S tier country, and it may be the only time Japan will win a game more than a single point differential. The alternative is that Japan and Nigeria tie and it could be around 3-3 or 2-2. Realistically, England will be the competitive match where Japan will barely win, where the stakes in the match will be the highest they've ever played to make the bracket stage. But the thing is that if Japan presumably beat England, then Japan don't technically have to beat Nigeria, as tying against them and beating England, assuming England beat Nigeria, will still allow Japan to move forward to the bracket stage. That being said, I still think that Japan beating the Kings of Africa is more likely, where the final game will have both teams beating Nigeria and losing to France, with England the favourites and most likely having a better showing in the group stage so far, whether it be them scoring more or conceding less goals than Japan. And the main reason I favour them actually winning is because this game will be more of a showcase to the world of the Blue Lockers' new training and development, and set the tone that Japan have changed and can beat a reasonably strong team like Nigeria, showing the rebirth of Japanese soccer competing against the world. Given that the first match in every arc is fairly quick, I don't think we will see this game last the full year like some of the NEL games, so I'm expecting it to last around 2 volumes or around 20 chapters, which would last until the end of the year. So given the predicted victory, the first thing I want to say about the Nigerian team is that these guys have such sick designs, especially Kuso, who radiates so much aura and I have very high expectations from him. But the other thing I'm extremely excited for is the fact we have team friendship, as we see all 4 primary players in the Nigerian team know each other from childhood. So in this match going forward, I think the key theme is about friendships, where they all have a strong bond with Oneri, who is a talented learner who discovered the other 3's genius talents. As for the rest of the team, the only other character who could be important is the goalkeeper Agbim, who was another member highlighted in the introductions last chapter. However, with the latest chapter happening where he's not part of the friendship squad and Oneri stopping the goal instead of him, then I'm losing faith that he will actually contribute to the team. Everyone else on the team have fairly bland designs and don't stick out as interesting or impactful in this match, so I'm guessing we will primarily focus on these guys like how in the U20 game focused on the Iron Wall and Sendo. The main man on the Nigerian team is Oneri, and so far he is the leading MVP of the match. As the number 9 in the team and the fact strikers and forwards are the main focus in the series, he is undeniably the most interesting and important person in the team. But what I do find most interesting about him is actually to do with his name. Now Oneri is most commonly a Nigerian surname, but it's also a Japanese word to mean the same or identical. Now his name could be a coincidence, but maybe it also tells us about himself and what his weapon actually is, similar to how Chigiri or Nico's names tell us about their characters. And so my first thought is that Oneri is at the same level as Iski and Rin, where they can compete with the new gens but are slightly a tier below, at least for now. I also want to mention that Oneri is very likely to have the same key attribute that makes Iski stand out, and it's not his metavision or his football skills, but his innate ability to awaken and improve his teammates. Being the key man on the team and him acting like All Might, then it feels borderline confirmed that he is the main source for the team's success and evolution, similar to how Iski helped people like Batra, Shigiri, Hiyori, etc. evolve in Blue Lock. Heck, even in the latest chapter, the first pass to him was stated to be bad, but if you take a look at the actual shot, what do you realize? It's a volley indirect shot similar to Iski, although Oneri is jumping in the air when he hits it. The other thing is that Nigeria were the winners from Africa, meaning they must have been Morocco and Egypt, who both potentially had new gen members if the flag theory is true. So similar to how Isiki and Blue Lock were clashing against people like Lorenzo, Sai and Kaiser previously, we also have Oneri in the Nigerian squad likely evolving, playing against strong players too. So when I hear Oneri's Nigerian name is also a Japanese word, I really don't think it's a coincidence and actually has deep meaning, where Oneri is basically the Nigerian version of Isiki with more physical capabilities, who also brings hope to the team, shares similar weapons and potentially had a similar journey. Just from one chapter alone, he will be a menace going forward, especially as we get to see his backstory explored, where I'm expecting at least 2 goals from him in this match. The next player we have is the tall glasses wearing captain Kuso. Given his physical attributes, he screams a genius, and from kickoff he looks like the second best player in the team after Oneri, as he enters flow instantly and easily gets past Isiki. The fact he is the Nigerian captain and has a chill demeanor makes me believe he'll be more important and likely the one to assist him later, especially as he seems very calculative as he passes to Bello by nutmegging Rin. The one to receive the pass was the right midfielder Bello. Now I don't know if Kuso was talking about him specifically when mentioning short and fast, or whether that was referencing the pass specifically. Either way, I think that both apply as he gets behind Batra swiftly before passing to Oneri. I also want to mention that his pass was explicitly stated to be poor, meaning we know his specific weakness right off the gate. This moment is also interesting because it's very similar to the one in the training, as the pass could have been better before he shoots. But in this case it seems like Oneri adapts to the pass, which reminds me of Haikyuu, where we have Kageyama and Atsumu share their philosophies about their teammates and them adjusting to the hitter's strengths. I think maybe later that once Oneri gets an actual good pass will be the moment he does actually score. We also have another tall player from Nigeria being the centre back Oboabona. With him in the friendship group, they all seem to have different positions covered. Given his height and his wingspan, it makes me think that he'll be really good at shielding, dueling and physically challenging the Blue Lockers. Defenders always get shafted in the series, so even though he is highlighted in the 4, I think he'll be the least important and done the most dirty. And failing to stop Rin isn't the worst, as he basically cooked everyone in the NEL anyway, so it was expected. Thematically, since we know about the 4 friends and Oneri being a physically gifted Isiki variant, I think there's an extremely good chance that they will be the equalist 4 rivals by the end of the first game, where we have Isiki vs Oneri, Batra vs Bello, Kunigami vs Oboabona, and Chigiri vs Kuso. And don't forget, exactly 100 chapters ago is the last time we saw the Eagles 4 reunite. And so it just feels right that the Nigerian 4 will face off against the Eagles 4 eventually in the match. And then I think we'll still see the theme of friendship explored through other characters like Hiyori and Karasu and Ryo and Nagi, as Ryo needs to develop before Nagi comes back through the Burusuda trials. But let's quickly talk about the Japan side, and something to consider is that this game will showcase a lot of their training that the Blue Lockers went through, so it will demonstrate an even stronger Japan than what we saw in the NEL, and so we will see all 11 plus the potential substitutes like Kunigami showcasing their evolutions in this specific game. For the formation, I think that Ego's prep work and planning accounted for Oneri being the primary striker and nucleus of the team, and so he entrusted both Aiku and Ayu to be able to aerial duel him, while Nico handles the weak points in the defense. Given Kuso's height, he may be a problem, but Aiku and Ayu may be required to stop him too, but we will see. We also have Gagamaru, who will probably have at least 1 save and a good hype moment in this match too, as he'll probably average at least 1 save per game. But honestly, I'm not expecting too much from him until later this tournament. Chigiri once again is relegated to the right side of the pitch, so he'll be used more defensively than trying to score for himself like in the NEL, since he can't get into his 44 snipe zone. With his training to improve his stamina, we will likely see him sprint more in the match, and a good chance he doesn't get benched mid-game due to fatigue like before. Hiyori is on the left side of the pitch, where I wouldn't even be shocked if he had a rough game relative to the rest of the team, where one of his passes is too short or not good enough like Isiki mentioned. He did try assist Rin, and it's not like they didn't score because of his pass, but he didn't really showcase anything amazing either in that initial play. But since it's only a single chapter so far, I'll give him some leeway since he'll probably perform later anyway. Karasu is also a link and provides synergy with both Chigiri and Hiyori while being a reliable anchor for the Japan squad. His training was more related to his running in the mountain area, which similar to Chigiri will be about improving his endurance and stamina as he plays as the primary defensive midfielder. Now Ryo is the blue locker I have the highest expectations from coming into this tournament. He was tasked with learning the other 22 people's skills with extra focus in that chapter, and the fact he was the only blue locker hidden when Burisuda walked in makes me believe he'll have a huge impact in this game. He was always an insanely good midfielder even in the Manshine game, as he is basically good at everything. And my early prediction is that despite playing as a midfielder, we have Ryo score the first opening goal, similar to how Nagi did for the team in the U20 match, and I'm actually expecting it to be from copying Iski's direct shot. Batra, my old favourite, is finally back in the limelight, and so I'm excited to see him cook. He typically has shown top tier individual skills, but since he actually has a team this time, unlike the trash FC Barca squad, then his skills can be better used, and his passing and crossing can be utilised and help people like Iski or Rin score, or he would just score himself anyway. We finally have the two forwards Rin and Iski, where Rin will probably be the one primarily focused for the offense, with Iski being the secondary striker who scores off possible opportunities. Now Rin's training was more of a mental diff, and it will be interesting if he can immerse himself in a challenge against Nigeria to enter his destroyer flow, especially since he's not playing against Iski nor Sai, who he has emotional connections with to trigger this flow state. Iski on the other hand went to Spain and watched some tapes to understand something we don't know yet. Personally, I'm expecting him to just learn to produce more goal scoring opportunities for the team. Given that there's a good chance the match will be a 4v11, I think the primary four will all be on the higher end of the blue locker's skill levels, probably all as good if not better than Chigiri and everyone ranked below him. Otherwise, I just don't see how this game could be challenging for Japan to prompt awakenings or evolutions to improve and give an interesting game to read. Even now, it looks like Oneri is basically 1v11 and fixing all the mistakes of his teammates, and existing as the glue that holds the team together. Like Oneri shouldn't be as good as Bunny or Loki and wouldn't be able to carry a team by himself, and so Kuso, Bello and Oboabona all need to step up, otherwise Japan will steamroll this game. Overall, I think in general that this match will be a showcase of the new Japan and their development as they challenge another solid country. All their individual training will be shown for their highlighted moments, yet showcasing their limitations as they improve before facing off against two top tier countries. This game will also thematically focus on friendships and bonds between the characters. And with this said, I can now talk about what I predict will be the key moments in the match. Now we already know the intro with Nigeria's initial attack and Japan's counter-attack, where Oneri teleports and comes in clutch to stop Rin's Pro-to-Eye goal, where he comes to the point where Iski sees this piece to beat them within like 5 minutes. Does that mean he'll score next chapter? Potentially it does, but I still believe Ryo scoring the first goal. With Ryo being tasked to learn 22 skills and his training being focused in the chapter, I think there's an incredibly high chance that he has some sort of meaningful performance in the group stage, especially since he is isolated from Nagi until the bracket stage. I also think he'll copy multiple techniques at once and will score from a direct shot or volley, similar to Iski and Oneri. With Ryo scoring the goal, I believe it will be the last thing Nagi sees before entering the Burisuda trials, and he'll say something corny like "don't wait for me" or "I'll catch up." He'll emphasize that he'll meet up and catch up to Ryo's skill level. Oneri's "since I'm here" and the focus on him being the team's light and hope makes me believe that he'll go on to score the next goal. A light shines brightest in the darkest room, and so for Oneri to be the shining hope for Nigeria, it is best for him to score when Nigeria are losing, because it's more symbolic that he can be some sort of hero as he saves them from their slump. With the score tied, we get a reiterated point that both teams are the same and equal, so as the game continues I think we'll have the rest of the cast development and training explored before they manage to score again. I'm not really sure who will score the second goal, but Rin or Batra's pass seems like a reasonable guess. I think the Nigerian friendships may crack a little as they stress a bit from the potential loss, where Oneri isn't satisfied with unsatisfactory passes, and so the four of them will have some sort of chemical reaction where Oboabona stops the striker, the two midfielders go plus ultra, and Oneri scores the final goal. I think the third and fourth goals are pretty interchangeable, but the first goal is most likely to come from Japan. I think around this point we'll finally see some substitutions where Kunigami comes in where he replaces Hiyori, who's been slightly underperforming this game. With him coming in the field, I think Chigiri will change sides to the left to be a more offensive player and an overall roster change. Maybe someone else like Atoya can come into the match as well, even if he isn't the main focus. So with Kunigami coming in, we have the Eagles 4 reunite on the same team, and just like how the Nigerian 4 had a group chemical reaction, I think we will see one from the Eagles 4, with Iski being the one to score the goal. However, I don't think this is the end of the match. I think it will continue with an all or nothing final play from Nigeria as they go full offensive, where Japan end up stopping them from tying the game once again. And by stopping them, they get in a prime position for a counter-attack, where they score once more to end the game 4-2. Given that in the previous two phases the first game ended with Iski x Kunigami scoring, I wouldn't be shocked if it did for a third time. Mainly because if the theme of the match is about friendship, then Kunigami, who once came back as full emo, then him bonding with the Eagles 4 may be the start to him returning to his old hero self. Also, with Oneri's emphasis in being the hero for Nigeria, then it also feels like a perfect time for Kunigami to score. With the game ending, I think we will briefly see Nagi once again in the Burasuda trials, and we may begin the wildcard story as we see some ex-Blue Lockers who were also recruited, like Kira. Besides these key moments, I think every player will have specific moments in the game, like Aiku, Karasu, Kagamaru, etc, but I just wanted to focus on the big highlighted moments for now. That being said, thanks for watching, Buddha be praised, and let me know your predictions, and as always, have a good day.